Unsolicited advice.
What you whispering for? Yo, what's unsolicited advice? Take it or leave it.
Children do better under a single parent that's a father or a mother. The U.S. Census data revealed that when children with developmental delays are under the age of 1, dads are more than 15 times as likely as moms to take those children into their care. As well, nearly half the children who ultimately lived with their dads full time initially lived with their moms. Why did they move? The mom often felt overwhelmed and out of control, often because the children resorted to drugs, drinking, delinquency, depression, and disobedience, including vicious swearing at the mom, or what I refer to as the 5 Ds. I want to also point out the fact that even there is this trend that I often guide women against when you say like, oh, I feel like a single married mother or a single parent that's married. There is no such thing as being a single parent and married, because you still have this other person to rely on. And I think that that's something that we as married women definitely have to get away from saying, because a single mother who is doing everything on her own is fully responsible for everything on her own. Even if you feel like your husband is not showing up to like household tasks and things, or he's not doing things the way that you want them to, there is still a physical body in that house that is able to be dependent upon worst case scenario, that is able to assist, that is participating in provision, and that is also participating in parenting. Because I think what often happens and what we miss in connection is moms are overwhelmed regardless, whether they are married or single. If you're taking on too much, and oftentimes even when you're married, you try to wear your struggle, like I say, as a badge of honor, and so you take on more than necessary, and so you end up getting yourself in these really high stress situations when you really don't need to. And so we tend to be overwhelmed anyway. Now imagine being an actual single parent, and now you're trying to discipline these kids, and they already have like this chip on their shoulder because they don't have access to their dad as much as they would want. They're going to be more rebellious, and more rebellious children are easier managed by their fathers. I told y'all all the time, like, as much as my children love, adore, and respect me, sometimes it takes for my husband to be like, I know y'all heard what she said, or like it takes for him to add that level of sternness, because that's just how it is. And then over time, I noticed that there are things that he will enforce, and the way that he'll say it to them, I better not hear your mom say that again, or I don't want to hear your mother say this again, or whatever. And so over time, they just listen by default, and there is no let me go get their dad. And that only comes from the structure of having their dad also be a parent. And I think that's what's missing when you're a single mom versus a single dad. Dads tend to, generally speaking, y'all, tend to have like more structure and ease of working things out. They also don't focus on small things. So like we get worked up and overwhelmed because we focus on every little detail in addition to the large details. So like we might be thinking about getting a perfect gift for your kid's best friend's party this weekend, while we're also thinking about how we got to get them to and from school, get them to and from practice, and all of these things. Dads will literally outsource. Like my dad, when my sisters were still in high school and he had a hard time getting them around, he hired a driver. Problem solved. Like, okay, I'm in court, I can't get over there to get them from school. I'm about to just call this guy and he's gonna go get them. And he had a regular driver that everybody knew. He would get them from school, get them to where they needed to be. Worst case scenario, like if he would call me and I was busy, or he would call somebody and my sisters weren't driving at the time, he would just get a driver. Problem solved. And so I think that we as moms, we overwhelm ourselves, and we're less likely to outsource too. So that's another thing that I think is probably a point that's not necessarily addressed. In brief, whether infants or teenagers developmentally delayed or delinquent, dads are more likely to get their children who are challenged than the children who are challenging. Yet the children do very well under their care, which opens the door for more young men to define their future purpose as father warrior. Because remember, if they're on the other side of that and they're being raised by their single mothers in the absence of their father, any terrible experience that they have in that regard, they blame their mom for it and they hate their dad for it. And so if you didn't see your dad, you're either going to be resentful of that, and then you're going to grow up to be a terrible father yourself, or you're not going to want to be a father, or you're going to grow up being like, I'm not going to be like him. And so your entire fathering experience is going to be trying to model the opposite of what it is that you saw. Versus if your dad is present in your life, you have a direct example of what that looks like and how it is to be a healthy father. The word warrior is not added lightly. A warrior makes himself aware of the barriers to achieving his purpose. Then, rather than focus on what is standing in his way, a warrior focuses on how to get past those barriers, which is exactly what he'll be teaching his children.
So today I have a guest based on the subject that I'm going to talk about today, because I want to make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn when it comes to this subject. Today we're going to focus on single parenting. And for that, I have outsourced someone that has been through a similar situation in her life. So I'll be asking her some questions today. If y'all want to, feel free, you can comment in under the comment section. Good evening. Okay, she's being quiet right now. It's gonna take her a minute to warm up. Things like this happen. So, when your first time being a single parent, what was one of the biggest hurdles you had to get over?
Child care and making enough money.
So at that young age, what was your first instinct to do as far as trying to make enough income?
Go to school.
Okay. What about in the meantime?
Family.
Family helped you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, of course, like I said, when starting out, you have a child and you start coming to the realization that you may have to do things on your own as a single parent. What are some routines that you had to learn to establish as a single parent with your kids?
Making sure that I got my rest and was up and able and capable of taking care of them and making sure they had what they needed.
And as far as your kids, what routines did you have them on as far as like scheduling or, things that you wanted them to get used to?
I didn't have
To
a
help.
schedule. They did what I did.
Okay. So was there ever times where you felt like, okay, man, I need to have a schedule or I need to have some type of routine because things are getting out of control?
No, not really. I feel like I kept everything together. I had good kids.
That's good. With that being said, and we can segue into that, what are some type of rules that you had to establish just to create consistency and avoid confusion with everyday things?
And what ages?
Oh, it doesn't matter what, just, your experiences throughout the years. Or, you can mention, I guess, certain times where, you had to establish rules based on something that may have happened. Or, you just seeing that something maybe wasn't getting done or wasn't working.
Oh no, my main thing was, like I said, going to school, making money, making sure bills was paid, having a vehicle to get them everywhere, and get me to back and forth to work.
Right.
Because at first, I didn't have a car, so I walked them to school, I walked to work, walk home, rest. By the time it was almost time for daycare close, I walk and get them and come back home, feed them, play outside, go to bed.
So in those different times that you had to do things, what were some of the rules, like your absolutely, do's and don'ts when it came to your kids, stuff that you had to let them know, hey, this is what we have to do, this is the routine, because I know that there's some type of boundaries or rules you had to put in place to make sure that, like you said, when you woke up, that, you go get your kids, that they weren't maybe, straggling, or somebody wasn't where they were supposed to be, or, just normal, routines. Because if you're doing it on your own at the time, you know.
But I had family that lived around me too, and neighbors that would watch out for my kids. They would call and knock on the door if my kids were somewhere they didn't have no business.
Okay.
But other than that, other than them getting outside of the boundaries, they didn't. They would only time they did that was when they was at my grandparents' house, which was in the country.
Yeah.
And they had nothing but woods to go in.
Yeah, I trust you didn't expect them to go running off nowhere with the woods being there.
No, because that's what I did when I was age.
One of the things I noticed with parenting is that you have to be very proactive. You know, as far as engaging in your child's life or your child's everyday activities. What are some things that you had to be proactive with your kids growing up?
That was one thing that I didn't do until the boys probably got maybe 9, 10. They started playing football. That was not something that I wanted to do. Take nobody to practice, pick nobody up. I'm tired, I've worked, I don't feel like doing none of that.
Right.
But that's where the coaches came in. They picked them up, brought them home. Sometimes fed them. I didn't have to worry about them because most of the coaches was family too. So that helped out a lot. Because once I got on work, I didn't want to do nothing. Don't talk to me. Go do your schoolwork. Go play. Go outside. Whatever you need to do. Take a bath. Get your clothes out for the next day. Go to bed and start all over again the next day.
Okay. But, you know, were there any moments where, you know, you had to, you know, step in and be like, okay, I got to make sure this gets done? You know, because they, you know, they need me there or whatnot.
Not really. They didn't even have to have no assistance with schoolwork. Was always done. I didn't have to sit down and worry about that. They weren't kind of kids that got in trouble or the teacher calling every week, a principal, or getting expelled. I didn't have no problems with that. The main thing I was worried about with school anyway was skipping school because I know I did. But
well, as far as, you know, we can focus on that real quick. As far as like when I talked about earlier setting boundaries, what expectations did you set, and or what were the what consequences did you set for your kids so they understood that there's a reason why we have these boundaries, or there's a reason why there's consequences for what you do?
I don't know. My kids thought I guess they thought I was mean anyway, like everybody else. They didn't too much test me until they got to be maybe 16, 17.
Right. And then, so what boundaries did you have to set then?
Don't follow my rules. Everything you have, I paid for.
Right.
I shall take it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get in that. We'll get to that in just a little bit, because that's an area I want to talk about as far as having to, you know, stand on business, as they say, or mean what you say. Communication, just like in any situation in life, is key. How do you get your kids to listen to you, and how do you try to listen actively to your children? Or, you know, how did that go throughout the years?
They probably listen to the tone of my voice, or if they see me getting up, coming towards them.
Right. And that's how y'all communicate it?
They know to get on. You don't work my nerves. Don't keep on.
Oh, okay. So it's more like body language, you know, they could just see certain things like, oh, okay, she's serious.
They knew me and I knew them.
And how do you feel like your kids, how do you feel like they communicated with you?
I feel like it was certain things they were scared to talk to me about. They'll do it now. They'll talk to my brothers and sisters before they talk to me.
Why did you feel like it was? Why you feel that way?
Because they still do it. They don't want to hear what I gotta say.
Right.
I guess I'm harsh and gonna tell it like it is, and it is what it is. Like you knew before you did whatever it was.
Right. A big thing nowadays is independence. You see a lot of kids not really having, social skills, life skills, any type of independence. It takes way longer now, to watch a child grow into the person that you expect them to be. when parenting, how do you teach your independence, or how do you encourage your child to take on age appropriate responsibilities? Or how did you, I should say?
No, everybody had chores. You knew what you were supposed to do.
Right. When did you start them on chores? Like, what age did you feel like it was like, okay, I think it's time?
As soon as they was ready to get up and open that refrigerator without me telling them to.
What age? Like,
Probably,
what do you feel like? What was the youngest?
Washing dishes at the age of 5.
Okay.
You can't reach the sink. Here's a chair and a pillow.
Okay. Cool. And with the independence, do you think that it helped, or did you start seeing like, okay, I think this is working. I think they're starting to learn how to do things for themselves.
Well, I guess they did, but like any kids, they'll clean up everywhere else except for their room.
Right. Yeah. Most kids are like that. I guess they feel like that's their private space, or I know that takes a little longer.
Yeah.
As far as like I said, maybe at a younger stage, when you may have felt like you had a lot going on or whatnot. How did you start deciding, you know what, I need to take self-care time, or it's me time?
I always had a lot going on. I had 4 kids.
How did you schedule like time, for your own needs or relaxation? Or, how did you go about it?
Me and my kids all homebodies and like to stay at ourselves. Everybody stayed in their rooms and didn't bother each other.
Right.
So we all got time to sit and meditate and not bother each other. They still do it. Until I holler and wake everybody up for what needs to be done.
But what about your, like when you feel like, okay, I need to take a vacation, or I need to, get away for a little bit. I need some time to myself. How did you start establishing that?
I don't.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
I don't. Most of the time I'm at home.
Okay. So I heard you mention a lot about family and, people in the community or whatnot. Kind of like building a support system, relying on friends, family, outsourcing, for assistance if needed, like a babysitter or whatnot. But like I said, when you were starting off, and as you went on, how can you speak on how important it is to keep some type of I'd say a small circle, or just a good support system when parenting?
I don't know, because I always had both sets of grandparents,
right,
that would come by and make sure I was all right and the kids was all right. Even if I had done cooked, they would bring you food, or they were stopping by, they were coming to pick them up, or coming and taking them to the park. It was always somebody there. Because we got a big family, I guess.
Yeah.
That's good. A lot.
Yeah, I think it's important to have some type of support system. I always feel like, you don't want to burn bridges if you do have like people that are consistent in your life, when you absolutely need them. I think that's a good thing to have. Now, as far as you as a parent, how did you feel like you established being a role model to your kids, or setting an example around your kids? How did you demonstrate like healthy behaviors, or things, so they understood what it means to be an adult and to be a good parent?
I don't know. I always took care of them. They may not have what they wanted, but they had what they needed. Like my kids now, Both of the boys have kids, and they do whatever they got to do to take care of those kids, whether they working or not working or calling me for help. They was just they always stayed on top of everything. So I guess they got that from me.
Right.
They don't have to have. They just observe. It wasn't really any conversations about it.
Mm. So, like with this next part, and I just want you to, you can just be as honest as you want, or if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. But when you were a single mother, or when being a single mother, when you choose to date or when you decide to date, how do you, or what advice would you give to someone that needs to be upfront about, their life, and how, their life is versus someone that wants to get to know them? You know how sometimes when people date, they don't tell you everything, and then it's just kind of thrown on them. Do you believe that, you need to be upfront, or do you feel like everything needs to be private until, further notice?
Probably, I don't know. It's just according to the person and the situation, and I don't know. It's just different. It's according to how long you've known somebody,
Right.
how easy it is to talk to somebody, how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just know I don't like to bring nobody around my kids until I have or feel like it's gonna be more than just some visits. Let me put it that way.
Right. All right. Yeah, I get it. So these next two questions are just more, they're kind of the same, but just in different areas. Tell me, what is your no-go area in the house where you feel like, no, this is my castle, or this is my domain. I don't want nobody coming in here, or do you feel like that's something important to so the kids understand, look, I get that this is our house, but this is mine right here. I need this sanctuary.
My room, but
Okay.
that don't work that way.
I mean, I get it, but that's what I'm saying. What advice would you give when setting those boundaries?
The only way, when they know when I don't want to be bothered, my door to my room stays open all the time. When I close it, they know to leave me alone or knock, or they'll call me on the phone.
Okay. I think that's an excellent idea. I like that. And do you believe that that should be learned like as early as possible?
Yes.
Because I know, when they're babies or whatnot, it's kind of hard to, to ignore them, or,
Yeah, that's different, but yes.
Right. And then also, as a parent, what advice would you give to somebody that's a new parent about no-go food areas where you don't need to be eating?
My thing was, do not eat in the rooms.
Okay.
You're going to eat in the kitchen, or if I choose for you to eat in the living room, it'll be because I'm right there watching you and I made you a space or an area for you to stay in.
Okay. Yeah, because I know sometimes one of the biggest pet peeves, or one of the things that will have people just in shambles, is the mystery plates. Mystery dishes in the house. Like, you walk into that room and, oh, okay, well, this is where my dishes have been. This is where my knives and forks are. These where all my cups are going. So I know that's a big thing when parenting. You're trying to keep up with everything, and then you start realizing that stuff is missing.
When they're teenagers,
Yeah,
or
you got you see it in the room.
It's going to always be in the room.
Yeah, and I think sometimes they don't realize how that that causes insects and rodents and stuff.
And I'm terrified.
Oh yeah, most people are. So like I said, raising your kids, one of the things that I'm sure most parents try to teach is teamwork, working together so you can get something done. How were you with getting your kids to work as a team or work together to get something done?
for something for themselves.
I mean, just anything, cleaning. Maybe y'all had like to get to this game and you had to go grocery shopping, so you just needed them to get it together, you know, so y'all could get stuff done. Or maybe you had to go to a grandparent's house or just anything.
No, it was easier. They were all right. Everybody, every Saturday, just like growing up.
Right.
Back in the day, every Saturday is cleaning day. They didn't have no problems. Music come on, everybody know what they supposed to do.
And then like what about when you're trying to get, let's just say you get the oldest to look out for the youngest, you know, working as a team in that way, say, hey, you know, you need to look out for your brothers and sisters or whatnot.
We ain't worried about that. My kids always stuck together. When they was hiding something from me, they wasn't go tell.
But
they
you know,
tell each other now.
Yeah, but like if you was to give somebody advice on trying to get, you know, at least for them to get along to work together, what advice would you give?
I don't know, because everybody got along. When my oldest, which is my son,
right,
was in charge of watching everybody, keeping the house together, we didn't have no problems. Now, when the boys moved out of the house, it was my youngest daughter is not going to listen to the oldest one. Period.
Right.
Two girls aren't going to get along.
Okay.
It's always a problem. It's always, mama, she doing this. Mama, she talking back. Mama, she won't clean up the room. Mama, she eating in here. Mama, she's not going to listen to me.
Right.
I don't know why you told me to tell her. And then
right.
Put her on the phone right now. And all I have to do is say it, and that's it.
One of the big things that I learned or I hear a lot about is wash day, or trying to make sure that there's not piles of clothes everywhere. I know this is a big issue with parenting when you have when you're trying to get the kids to remember to just at least put clothes in a basket, or to not wear something dirty again. What was your method?
They'll wash their clothes. They just don't want to wash dishes. I don't have to worry about the clothes.
But like I said, if you were giving advice, what do you think is a good method to have when trying to get your kids to remember to keep, to make sure that wash day is when we need to get everything together?
When everybody was at home, they washed their own clothes, but everybody had a day of the week to wash.
Okay. Did you designate somebody to fold them, or did they fold them together, or did you just say, if you wash them, I'll fold them? Or
no.
Okay.
Y'all will hold your own clothes.
Right.
And you're going to put up your own clothes. Now, when they were younger, before they became, say, 9, 10 or whatever, we'd all go to the laundromat because I'd be done let them piled up.
Right.
And they all would help out and fold and match up socks, and everybody put their own clothes up.
Okay. Was there ever a time where you had to teach someone a lesson because they just wasn't listening to what you were telling them as far as that? Like, I remember when I was a kid, I had football practice a lot. So my mom would always say, don't forget, and I would forget. So I remember I went to a game smelling kind of ripe because I forgot. I kept forgetting to put my uniform. I'm sorry, y'all. That was one of those Negro mistakes. I know it's the end of Black History Month. Sorry about that. We try to keep it classy on this channel. So when I was younger, I remember my mom taught me a lesson because I kept forgetting to put my uniform in the washer. So she, and she got tired of telling me. So I remember, you couldn't come on Friday on game day. You couldn't come with your jersey dirty or you didn't play. So sure enough, I didn't have a choice. I had to put my jersey on and I had to, bring my equipment and it was dirty. And, I learned my lesson because, I got clowned when I was at school. So, I get that. I know that there's it's a big thing with the washing or just cleaning.
My thing was they would forget and leave it at home and expect me to bring it.
Right.
No, that didn't happen. I wasn't bringing it.
Piggybacking on that and to stand kind of on that same subject, growing up, we used to have this thing where our parents, every once in a blue moon, or maybe once a week, they would cook something that we didn't want. What is your advice on a child that just refuses to eat something that you cooked?
They chose to be hungry.
Okay. So, of course, one of the things that your parent would say is, I don't have time to prepare something different, and all of a sudden the child decides that they don't like something, or hadn't informed you that they don't like it. Or, do you think that you should always have like a second choice, or do you think that they should choose either to eat it or to not eat it?
Eat it or don't eat.
Okay. And just for clarity, why do you feel like that's the best route to go with a child?
Because you got most of these parents now that cook a whole meal and go and order the other kid something to eat instead of making them eat what's at home. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
You trying to start a war? You trying to teach the rest of them? All I gotta do is refuse. Man, they do that for real?
Now, yep.
Nah, my mom.
So are they gonna eat, or you can go on to bed and try again tomorrow?
I remember I tried to fix a sandwich. My mom snatched it and threw it in the trash. I mean, that was how that's how it was, because your mom took that as disrespect. Especially if they took the time to cook. For one, every mom's they feel like they can cook. They feel like they can throw it out in the kitchen. So for you to, as a child, to start crying, to just make a big fuss, that would piss. That's probably one of the number one things that would piss a parent off, is you acting like you don't got no sense just because it's something that you don't eat.
It don't bother me. Because I know I don't eat a lot of things.
Right.
So I'd rather you can go and fix you something else to eat, but I ain't paying or going to buy nothing.
Yeah. So let's just say for new parents that aren't used to the theatrics of a child just, throwing a fit and, being irrational. Because like you said, these are new age parents now where these kids think that you can just DoorDash something. They don't want the meal at all. They don't want nothing in the house. They just in a mood. What advice would you give to that parent on how to handle that?
That's the parent's fault. They never should have started it.
Okay. So what do you think they should just do going forward? Just lay the law down and stand on it?
Because you made the kid the way that they are.
Right.
Now, unless income or something changes and you ain't able to do it, you shouldn't have started it.
Okay.
But you should always say, prepare the child as if you have nothing, because that could happen.
Right. So it's kind of, because there used to be a luxury, going to McDonald's or pizza night, or I remember if we did good in school, my mom would take us to Blockbuster.
That's a reward. Blockbuster,
and then she would probably either order us pizza or wings or something. But that was only if we did, if I did good on my spelling or I did good in math. I remember that, it's a little different nowadays because kids feel like they have options, which it is true. There are options, and parents are a little bit more busier now. Some people work second, 2 jobs. Like I said, this is why we're here talking about single parents. And I know I'm still stuck on this one, but a lot of kids are very entitled now because of that. It's like, oh, well, you've done it before. Why is it different now? Why are you, Let's just say, because like I said, some parents, especially if you're a single parent, you got to work maybe 2 jobs, and you're tired and you don't have time to cook. So let's just say you've been going on a run where you just been picking up food, or you've been giving them a card to use to get food or whatever. And now all of a sudden they've grown a taste for the good life. And one day, let's just say you just decide, I'm gonna cook hamburger helper today. I'm off, kids ain't at home yet, I'm gonna cook hamburger helper, and then they just come in and say, I don't want that.
I heard your story, I heard your scenario, but that would never be my situation.
Right. I know it's not yours, I'm just saying the advice.
No. I would never give a kid my card. But
You know what I mean? Just this new age is where, the kids do. They got phones. Sometimes they send the money through the phones, like Cash App. I've seen it. Even I remember when I was at the Boys and Girls Club, the kids would literally cash out DoorDash food. They'd come in right from school, and their parents would give a note to give to me to say that they need to eat there, because they won't be there until 5:30. I'm just saying that's just how it is now. Do you believe that's healthy, or do you? Okay.
Not at all.
Right.
I don't DoorDash.
Okay.
But when I say no,
Mm-hmm.
they have someone else to call that says yes.
That's not good, but okay. All right.
That's a problem.
I don't want y'all to hear that. Don't listen to that little last part that she threw in there, because I'm trying to get a good, sturdy advice. I think she's having flashbacks right now, so we'll move on. Another thing that has changed is the whole idea of if you lose it, you pay for it, or if you lose it, it's gone. I'm not getting another. Nowadays, kids lose stuff all the time, right? It used to just be your coat or your hand mittens, your gloves because it's cold outside, or your coat because you left it at school, or, you might have left your lunch or something. But now kids are losing their iPads, their headphones, the phones that you bought them. They leaving their shoes at school because they wanted to wear their Crocs all day. Just different scenarios. What do you feel is the best policy on your child losing something and trying to teach them the accountability part of it?
I don't replace. It's your responsibility.
Okay.
Know it costs this amount of money. If you can't keep up with it, that means you didn't want it.
I totally agree. I agree with that. I'm a firm believer in that, because I think that's the only lesson that'll be learned. They have to, it'll make them appreciate stuff more if they know they can't get another, especially at a certain age.
I don't have money to give away.
Right. Yes, ma'am. On a lighter note, because we're going to get a little bit more happier in here. It's a little gloomy. I like to call this part Love on Tap. So, of course, there's, being a mom, I'm sure that there's always love to go around as far as, giving hugs, or, maybe giving affirmations if your child is just not, feeling like themselves, or just, just appreciation, things like that. What are some ways that you show love to your kids? Like I said, and we're still talking about in the sense of being a single parent. Sometimes they only getting love from one parent. They might not be getting the same amount of love from another. Has that ever been a hurdle for you, or what is your opinion on that?
I don't know.
But
Kids like to stay up under me and hug and kiss, and I'm like, get off of me, leave me alone, give me my space.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's love on tap. Even though you tell them get out of your face, of course that shows that they have some type of relationship with you, and they have some type of definitely have strong feelings for their mom. And that's a good thing. And of course, you mentioned your family earlier, so they always know that they have love coming from some type of area. Mm-hmm. And like I said, for new parents, do you feel, how some, especially with these new parents, they don't know how to allow other people to love their kids. They almost, it's almost, you can see it sometimes, it's almost like a jealousy thing, because they're so used to their kids being up under them that they don't know how to allow other people to show love to their kids as well, mm-hmm. without, feeling some type of way.
always say you can't do it by yourself anyway. And
Right.
you don't know everything that there is about a kid, and it's always a different point of view. So you should always listen
Right.
to what somebody else has to say or thinks about a situation.
I like that. I like that a lot. I've seen it a couple of times where, in my situation, I've dated people that were single parents, and when I remember a lady once really took issue with their kids getting comfortable with me. You know, they really started liking me, you know, to the point that they started asking, hey, where's Dana at? Or, where's, is he going to come back around, whatnot? And I think it was okay at first, but then she started realizing that maybe she wasn't getting as much attention, or, if I came around, and it became a problem. That's why I was asking that question, because sometimes that happens because, especially with some parents, being a single parent, sometimes that's all that they have, is their kids, all the time that they spend, morning, noon, and night, it's usually with their kids. And sometimes when someone else comes in and their kids maybe show excitement, or happy that that person's around, maybe shows them more attention, it builds a rift or a divide. What is your view on that?
No, not at all. It should not.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they got some
right
issues that they need to resolve with themselves, because you should never have an issue with anybody on the outside coming in that your kids take a liking to.
Yeah.
That says something about them.
Yeah, and
you need to keep them around.
Yeah, and I remember we had conversations about that, because I remember I saw it. She didn't necessarily say it, but I could see the the body language, and just her mood would change. And I remember I didn't even say nothing at first. I kind of just fell back. I was like, you know what? I'm just not. I think I'll just come around when the kids aren't around. Maybe that's the issue. And I remember when I talked to her about it. Of course, she tried to throw me off. She was like, "Oh no, I know issue." I was like, "Well, I just want to make sure." But I know that sometimes with some parents, like I said, when they have such a deep relationship with their kids, it's kind of hard for them to share that love or share, that happiness with someone else. Ignoring. So when ignoring, what is your view on when to ignore and when to say, okay, I'm finna nip this in the bud?
We're talking about with the kids?
Yeah, with the kids. Like I said, we're still talking about being a single parent, and you try to tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to ignore it. I'm not going to ignore it. They can cry all they want, or they can, complain all they want. Oh, this person, she just talked back. You know what, I'm going to ignore it right now. I'm not going to let them get me out of character. So that's why I said, when do you try to be the adult and try not to let the kid dictate your mood? And when do you say, okay, it's time to nip this in the bud? And, and not, in a friendly way of saying it's time to nip it in the bud, if you know what I mean.
I don't know. My thing is, my kids know me, and they know I don't like to keep repeating myself.
Okay. So you say it's good to not repeat yourself, to make it a one-time only thing.
Yeah, that's enough. They heard it the first time.
Got it. So like, I'm just gonna throw a scenario out there. Let's just say like you're at the store, right? And your child is, whining at the grocery store. It's just one of those days where you really gotta, load up on groceries. And we know most kids don't care to be, to be in there, unless it's things that you're buying for them that they want. So you try to ignore it because you're used to it or whatnot. But it's just one of those days where they just said, you know what, I'm going to crank it up a little bit. How do you handle it in a community setting? Like if you're out in the community, or, you're out somewhere and you're trying not to get out of character. Because, of course, back then we used to get snatched up if we did something like that. But now everybody's got a camera, and these kids are getting smarter. They starting to do stuff, at the perfect time around, a lot of people. How do you think that a new age parent should handle that?
I don't know how they should do, but I know I'm whooping their
Regardless.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, sometimes it works. Sometimes you just have to say, you know what, I don't care. And it
will be further addressed when we get outside of the store.
Right. So, there is this, they call it, what is it? I want to call it, it's soft something. I saw it the other day. But it's like a form of timeout, but it's like soft parenting. What are your views on soft parenting?
Soft nothing, and I don't do timeout.
Okay.
It defeats the purpose.
So, with timeout, what do you feel like is wrong with, or what do you feel like the issues are with trying to do timeout?
You're putting a kid in timeout to sit and think about something that they really don't even understand and know that they thinking about, or really know that they doing wrong. You got to show them and teach them.
Right. Okay.
Or put them through some pain, make them do jumping jacks, do something.
Right.
If you tell me to go to timeout, when I get finished, how many of them kids you think go right back to do the same thing they was doing?
Oh man.
So what was the point?
Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, like I said, it's a little different now. The kids are smarter. They're more defiant. Some of them, I'm starting to think they like pain.
Because I can tell
they grow up different now.
I can tell my granddaughter,
Right.
Time out right now.
Mm-hmm.
She'll go stand. She'll find her a spot, stand in it, turn around and smile and look at you. So, I'm done now.
Oh.
No, you know wrong.
At least she had manners. Yeah, that's the hard part. That's why I said I couldn't make eye contact. That's the hard. I'm like, damn. And she got manners.
You trying to?
All right, baby, come on out the corner. So, just a couple more. So like I was just mentioning it just now, how kids are built different now. It's almost like nothing. There's no way of punishing them in a way. Like, of course, when they're younger, yeah, kids get whoopings. There's so many things that make them cry. But as they get older, it's almost like they just put on a new set of armor and nothing affects them. But I've noticed lately, like I seen a video on Instagram where the mom took her daughter to Verizon, the phone store, and had them cut her phone service off. And the little girl just flipped out in the store, begging her mom to cut it back on. And of course I saw other videos where a parent would take the tablet away from a child and they'd lose it, or take the video game system away. Do you feel like that these are the newer alternatives versus, spanking a child? It's almost like the technology is a better punishment than the,
That's because you've raised that kid and you give it to them at an early age. They don't know nothing else but that. So that crushes them.
No, I'm just saying, do you think that works? Do you think it's an effective tool?
It's according to when and how long they take it from them. Most of them is just trying to prove a point and only a day, or give it back to them the same day. No, if I turn it off, it's off.
Right.
It'll get turned back on when you're old enough to get a job and can pay for it yourself. Or you'll be holding a Walmart sign.
Yep. Yeah. I think that it's a more of an effective tool now because, in my line of work, I've seen kids call DFACS just because they don't get their way. I remember I had one parent let DFACS take her kids. And I remember I had to remind her. I was like, you got to go through a process to get them back. She was like, I'll go through it. But I don't. Yeah. And I remember she was like, I'm not going to let them dictate anything. And I was like, you don't really see that, but I part of me understands. Mm-hmm. Like you have to, just in this day and age, it used to be kids feared certain things. Nowadays, it's like it's almost like a or else what type attitude. It's like, you know what, let me see what actually happened. They're always threatening it to do this or do that. Let me see if mom and dad are going to actually do something.
But that goes back to
Yeah.
You can't be your kid's friend. You gotta
Yes.
find the line between and being the parent.
Right.
Them kids calling defects and wanting and trying to get their way is because of how you done taught them or not taught them of how they should act.
Right.
Mm-mm.
So the last part, like I said, we've been talking about giving advice to people who are single parents, you know, trying to juggle their life, you know, maybe their career, and also trying to raise their kids. One of the big things that's going on nowadays, and you just mentioned it, is you have a lot of parents that want to be their child's best friend, and they forget that it's about being their parent. You know, so much so sometimes you see disturbing stuff where you almost think that they're treating them like they're their boyfriend or girlfriend. You know, it's weird energy. I get it. You know, you love your child, but sometimes it's almost like they just are fully invested in their child, like they're in a relationship, and they forget that you're still their parent. So with that being said, I just want to get into, and this is the last part, I just want to get into natural consequences. The thing that I've seen is the major part that I've seen in this situation is parents not allowing disciplinary actions to take their course. Meaning if the school disciplines them, you know, or if they get probation because they've done something, you know, or maybe they get expelled, or maybe maybe they got caught stealing or something. You have so many parents that, of course, it's your child and you want to come to their rescue. But what do you believe in? What do you think about natural consequences where you feel like, you know, I'm going to sit back and let this consequence speak for itself versus, no, I need to protect my child. They may be wrong, but it's my child.
No, if you wrong, you wrong. You
Right.
gotta suffer the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing I can do. If you get in jail,
Mm-hmm.
I can't save you because I ain't coming in there.
Right. And on that part, can you just speak, just for the record, right here at the end, can you speak on school systems and how you view them and how you view how they treat the children? Do you feel like it's the kids causing a lot of the problems, or do you feel like the school systems aren't doing their jobs?
Both.
Okay. Because, you know, you do get a lot of single parents that come up to the schools because their child has done something. And of course, a lot of them usually end up going off on the school versus, you know, doing anything about the child. You see that a lot. But like you said, you know, it goes both ways in a way, depending on the school system.
Because you see your child and you think you know how they act and how they will respond to certain things at home.
Mm-hmm.
And the teachers see them almost 8 hours a day too. So they pretty much know.
Right.
Oh, I say both. But you got some teachers or principals or counselors at the school that just see stuff one way. They ain't looking at the feelings or how the child may have been brought up or what the child's going through. It's just one way. That's it.
Have you ever had a moment where someone tried to tell you how to parent?
Never.
You know, the school system or anybody like that?
No.
Because, you know, you get that a lot where, you know, by the time you get to the school, they done called a therapist and everything. You're like, well, who are these people? You know, they do that now where they try to parent the parent on how to raise their kid. Yeah, some of them, but you know what I mean? Like if you just do, you know, you're doing the best that you can, but somebody is trying to come in. I'm just saying for the ones that are dealing with that. Someone's trying to come in and tell you how to parent instead of just telling you what happened and allowing you to handle it. Yeah. You know, now the school systems have gotten to where they want to coach you and teach you.
And see, that's up to the parents as to how they let them talk to them. Because once you start talking to me like that, the whole conversation is going to change.
And I've seen it a lot of times. A lot of them, what they do is they go based on if the parent looks young or comes off as young. they think, oh, well, we need to step in. It's like, well, no, that's still their decision on how they want to parent their child. You can give them opportunities. You can say, hey, well, we got this if you need it. If they need after school, we provide that. But you let them make that decision. But a lot of them love to step in. But I like the fact, like you said, the natural consequences need to take over in those moments. So do you have any last advice for any parent out there that's trying to do it on their own?
I would say limit technology.
Okay.
Internet, spend time with your kids, go out in nature, teach them stuff that they wouldn't necessarily learn at school or shouldn't be learning at school. Talk to them, spend time with them.
Okay. That's good. I like that. Well, thank you. Thank you for being a guest. Thank you for giving us that insight.
You're welcome.
Even though, as always, it's unsolicited advice, they can take it or leave it.